In a dense, desolate forest, Makuta and his friends suddenly encounter a massive fox-like creature. The beast glares at them with fury, making their hearts pound with fear. Frozen in place, they struggle to decide what to do next. Then, to their shock, the creature opens its mouth and calls them humans. Before finding himself in this predicament, Makuta had been an ordinary office worker, until one day, he was suddenly summoned to another world. Upon arrival, he discovers that 3 other people have been summoned alongside him. Standing before them is a girl who appears to be a princess. She addresses them as heroes and pleads for their help in saving her kingdom. From this, Makuta quickly realizes that he has been transported to another world. Soon after, a man begins appraising their abilities using a magical mirror. The results reveal that the 3 other heroes possess extraordinary combat skills. However, when it's Makuta's turn, his unique skill turns out to be online grocery, a power resembling online shopping from Amazon. Stunned, Makuta asks if he has any other abilities, but the man confirms that this is his only skill. Though seemingly useless, the man still advises Makuta to meet the king. Thinking it might be a good idea, Makuta proceeds to the royal court. Upon arrival, he immediately notices that the king and his family are adorned with an excessive amount of jewelry. This strikes him as strange, making him suspect that something is amiss. The king explains that his kingdom is in grave danger, which is why he has summoned the heroes. The 3 other heroes pledge their support, but Makuta senses dishonesty in the king's words. Instead of offering his help, Makuta tells the king that he lacks any combat skills and would be of no use. The king, uninterested in someone without fighting abilities, allows Makuta to leave and even gives him 20 gold coins. As Makuta walks through the streets, he notices people staring at him due to his unusual clothing. To blend in, he stops at a shop and purchases a new outfit. He then checks into a cheap hotel and books a room. Once inside, he sighs in relief, glad that he didn't trust the royal family. Their extravagant appearance doesn't align with a kingdom supposedly in crisis, making him even more convinced that something is wrong. He decides to leave the country as soon as possible. Curious about his newly acquired skill, Makuta starts experimenting with it. Suddenly, a status window appears in front of him. When he accidentally touches it, an interface resembling an online shopping site opens up. Intrigued, Makuta orders a pizza and a bottle of water. However, the system prompts him for payment. He inserts a silver coin, and instantly, the items materialize before him. Amazed by the speed of the delivery that is faster than Amazon Prime, Makuta enjoys his pizza and then goes to sleep. The next morning, he asks around about the best way to leave the country. He learns about Kiel's village, located near the border. While searching for transportation, he finds a carriage heading toward Kiel's and hops aboard. Inside the carriage, Makuta meets a merchant who shares some intriguing information. The merchant explains that the item box skill is incredibly rare, possessed by only one person in thousands. Additionally, the appraisal skill is exclusive to heroes summoned from other worlds, making both abilities highly valuable. This revelation makes Makuta cautious. He cannot afford to draw suspicion. However, he is relieved to learn that most people in this world lack the ability to appraise him, meaning his identity as a hero is unlikely to be exposed. Curious, the merchant asks Makuta why he is heading to Kiel's. Makuta responds that he plans to leave the country. The merchant nods in approval, saying that Makuta has made a wise decision, as the country is on the verge of collapse. He warns that the borders will be closed soon, leaving Makuta stunned by this news. Upon arriving in Kiel's, Makuta discovers that all outbound transportation services have been halted. After speaking with locals, he learns that the authorities are preparing for war. To prevent a shortage of soldiers, they have banned travel beyond the borders. Realizing that he must escape on foot, Makuta visits the Adventurers Guild to request an escort for his journey. At the reception desk, he informs the receptionist that he wants to travel to the country of Vina and needs a party to accompany him. The receptionist quotes a fee of 7 gold coins, which shocks Makuta. She then explains that, due to the border closure, demand for such services has skyrocketed, so the price is now 8 gold coins. With no alternatives, Makuta reluctantly hands over the money. The receptionist then summons an adventurer named Werner, the leader of the C-rank party Iron Will. After a brief introduction, Makuta offers to provide all their meals during the journey as an extra incentive. Werner, delighted by the proposal, accepts the request. They shake hands and agree to depart the following morning. Next morning, Werner arrives with his team. He introduces them: Rita, the scout, Ramon, the magician, Franca, the healer, and Vincent, the swordsman. Makuta greets them all, and together, they set off toward Vina. After covering some distance, they decide to take a break. Makuta retrieves cooking supplies from his item box and begins preparing a meal. Meanwhile, Rita is amazed to see Makuta using a magic stove, though Makuta doesn't correct her. It's actually a regular portable stove he bought from his online store. He had previously tried purchasing a real magic stove from an antique shop, but the shopkeeper had demanded 50 gold coins, an absurdly high price. Makuta prepares sandwiches and soup for everyone. The group is immediately impressed by the quality of the food. Vincent marvels at the softness of the bread, prompting Makuta to casually mention that it comes from his hometown. Werner is surprised that Makuta is feeding them such high-quality food, but Makuta brushes it off, saying it's no big deal. As they eat, Werner admits that he is now looking forward to every meal prepared by Makuta. After finishing their meal, they resume their journey. Suddenly, Rita senses something nearby. Before they can react, two monsters attack them. However, Werner and Vincent swiftly eliminate both creatures without breaking a sweat. Makuta, seeing the lifeless corpses, is visibly shaken. Rita then warns that an angry red boar is lurking nearby. Moments later, the massive beast emerges in front of them. Makuta freezes in fear, but Franca assures him that there is nothing to worry about. Without hesitation, they charge at the boar and slay it effortlessly, taking no damage. Afterward, they begin harvesting valuable parts from the boar's carcass, but are disheartened when they realize they will have to discard most of the meat due to its bulk. Seeing an opportunity, Makuta offers to store the meat in his item box. Upon reaching some ancient ruins, the group decides to spend the night there. As they settle in, Werner asks Makuta if he plans to bake bread again. Makuta, smiling, replies that he's thinking of making something special this time. As he begins cooking, he notices the others watching him with eager anticipation. Not wanting them to discover that he's using ingredients from his online store, he frowns and says, "Your staring is making me nervous. Look away." Reluctantly, they turn their attention elsewhere. With the pressure off, Makuta prepares a hearty vegetable stew using fresh ingredients from his online store. Once it's ready, he serves it to the group. They take their first bites, then suddenly fall silent. Makuta's heart sinks. Did they not like it? But before he can say anything, they devour the stew like starving wolves and soon begin begging for more. Seeing their enthusiasm, Makuta beams with satisfaction. One of them comments that, while traveling, they usually survive on dried meat and hard bread, so eating something warm and tender is a rare treat. Rita adds that after eating, she feels her exhaustion melting away, as if new strength is surging through her body. This puzzles Makuta. How can food alone make them feel stronger? Out of curiosity, he discreetly uses appraisal on them, and what he sees shocks him. Their stats have increased simply from eating his food. A cold realization strikes him. If anyone finds out about this, he could be in serious trouble. Deciding to keep this a secret, he quietly resumes his meal, completely unaware that something is watching him from the shadows. The next day, they continue their journey. When night falls, they find a suitable resting spot and set up camp. As usual, Makuta takes charge of cooking, determined to keep his online store a secret. Carefully, he cuts the leftover boar meat and leaves it to marinate in a ginger sauce. While it soaks up the flavors, he finally chops the cabbage. Then, after heating oil in a pan, he begins frying the meat. As the sizzling meat releases its mouth-watering aroma, the scent spreads through the forest. Unbeknownst to them, the same mysterious creature from the previous night is lurking nearby, drawn in by the irresistible smell. Once the meal is ready, Makuta serves the food. The moment they take their first bites, they erupt with joy. Werner, inspired, wraps the meat in a slice of bread and takes a big bite. Seeing him, Rita follows suit, and soon, everyone is happily eating meat-filled sandwiches, savoring every bite. But while they indulge, the creature from the shadows remains still, silently observing them from a distance. Just as Makuta is explaining the dish to his companions, their faces suddenly pale with fear. Makuta, Werner whispers, turn around. Slowly, he turns, and comes face to face with a massive fox-like creature. Terror grips him. The creature stares at him intently before speaking in a deep, commanding voice. Give me that meat. Without hesitation, Makuta grabs a plate and quickly piles it with meat. He places it in front of the creature, who devours it in a single gulp. The creature remains unsatisfied and demands more food. Makuta, trembling with fear, explains that the meat is finished and he will have to cook another batch. The creature, growing impatient, urges him to hurry. Without wasting a moment, Makuta begins cooking again, moving as fast as possible. As soon as the meat is ready, Makuta fills a large bowl and hands it over. The creature immediately pounces on the food, devouring it within seconds. Before Makuta can even catch his breath, it demands more. He starts cooking again, only to watch the creature consume everything just as quickly. This cycle continues for what feels like an eternity. No matter how much Makuta prepares, the creature finishes it in an instant. Eventually, after countless servings, it finally appears satisfied. Completely drained, Makuta collapses onto the ground, exhausted from the relentless cooking. The creature, now in a much better mood, looks at Makuta approvingly. Pleased with how he managed to satisfy its hunger, it suddenly expresses a desire to form a familiar contract with him. Werner and his party stare in shock, unable to believe what they just heard. Makuta, equally surprised, struggles to process the situation. Despite his confusion, Makuta instinctively wants to refuse. However, the intense gaze of the creature and the urging of Werner's party leave him feeling cornered. Realizing he has no choice, he reluctantly agrees. The creature moves closer and presses its forehead against Makuta's, initiating the contract. A soft glow surrounds them, marking the completion of the ritual. With the bond now established, the creature reveals its expectations. Makuta will be responsible for providing its meals 3 times a day. A wave of realization washes over Makuta. The exhaustion from the night's endless cooking suddenly feels even heavier, as he understands he has just committed himself to feeding this enormous creature for the foreseeable future.